So throughout the past couple of years, I've noticed that the Suicide Squad has become this very big thing. And if you're a DC Comics fan, I mean, the only way you know who the Suicide Squad was is if you're a DC Comics fan. That's it. Or a Marvel Comics fan who also likes DC. But other than that, there'd be no way you would know who the Suicide Squad was before the 2016 one starring Will Smith and Margot Robbie. And I just think it's so interesting now that the Suicide Squad has become sort of this thing that's been boosted into the cultural zeitgeist. This is a very obviously casual video, just me putting out my thoughts. I'm not really saying anything special. At least I don't think so. But I just wanted to put something out that was more laid back as opposed to the more rigid stuff that I normally do. So yeah, like I've noticed that stuff like the evil, quote unquote, evil Superman trope, where you have a character like Omni-Man or a character like Homelander. People nowadays say that I've seen where people say they're tired of that. And if you're into comics, that stuff's been there. It's always been there with stuff like Irredeemable, which is like if Superman was a serial killer. Or stuff like obviously Invincible and The Boys. That stuff has been there. It's just that it's now on television and easy to access, so it's there for everybody to see. But with the Suicide Squad, I just really think that they represent, or even just the popularity of them. I mean, you have the two movies, and then you're going to have the video game that looks amazing that's coming out. Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. And honestly, I would throw in the continuous popularity of Batman in it too, to where people just, especially nowadays, it's not so much that things are edgy. I just feel like, especially for someone my age, on the younger side, I just feel like nowadays the entertainment that people are flocking to, especially people in my generation and even younger than us, is stuff that's a bit more just not edgy, but I don't know, just stuff that's a bit more emotionally realistic. I don't know, that's a term I just made up off the top of my head, but like with the Suicide Squad, for example, you have all of these different characters that don't even look like, aside from Margot Robbie portrayal of Harley Quinn, they don't even look like your GQ level models or your super pretty Instagram famous type person that you're going to see or whatever. There's a grit to them. There's a human reality to them that you don't always get from a Superman or a or a Wonder Woman or a Flash. The Avengers kind of took the spot when it came to the good heroes, in a sense, the quote unquote good guy heroes. But even then, the Avengers movies, the Captain America movies, especially the Captain America movies, they question things. They're not always saying, well, this is what ultimate good looks like. And I feel like the Suicide Squad took the Justice League spot when it came to being able to portray that kind of thing, because they're just so palatable. And as a comic book fan, prior to both films, you couldn't really think that or say that, because who would ever make a Suicide Squad movie prior to David Ayer's version? Like, no one thought that was ever going to happen until it happened. And I just think it's so crazy that now they are just this big thing. And I think, like I said, it's like I said before, it's because that there's an emotional realism to them, but also I think it's just because nowadays our generation, we're very open about pain. We're very open about our emotions. We're very open about the darkness that can fester and grow within us. And we connect with each other through that a lot of times. We connect with each other a lot through shared experiences of pain. And not to say that there aren't good times and everything is always edgy, because it's not. And for anyone who thinks that, they're just ridiculous. Don't listen to those types of people who throw away your depression like it's just something you can feel and then that's it. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. People don't work that way. But I think what makes the Suicide Squad appealing is that these are characters who are coming together through pain. They're angry, they're upset. Some of them have, quote unquote mental disorders, or some of them are just odd. And they come together through that, and they support each other through that. And you can see real people in that, as opposed to if you saw a Superman or Flash hanging out. That's a huge ask because they're gods. So it's a big ask that they're gods, and that just doesn't work that way. That's why you have to show Avengers just chilling. That's why you need that slice of life, because the ask is that these people are just larger than life, and that's the ask that you're giving the audience. And now you have to find a way to balance that out. And while the Suicide Squad is straight larger than life, that which is the big ask, what balances it is the realism that is shown through them visually, and that is shown through them, the way they act and the way they handle themselves, even to the point of where the cinematography in both films, it's very dirty, it's very gritty, it's very messy, and that's life. I feel like they reflect just what goes on in people's heads, this chaotic crisis, cacophony of just bullshit that's always happening. And you try your best to find a moment of happiness. You try your best to find a moment of peace before you got to go back into the chaos. And people want entertainment that reflects how they're feeling. People also want entertainment to escape, but when you can have both, that works too. And from what I'm hearing about this new film, the new Suicide Squad film, I think it has both, and it has those things, and people are gonna love that. And Ratcatcher is fine. I'm gonna just say that right now. But yeah. And I just feel like it's not that it's the edginess of something like Suicide Squad or someone like Omni-Man, that, or even someone like Invincible, that is attracting people. It's the fact that they represent people who are beaten by the world and who still keep going. It's no different than someone having to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, tired as hell, haven't eaten, can't sleep or whatever, but has to go out there into the world and work, only to come home, throughout the whole day, probably gets disrespected, probably doesn't feel that they're meeting their own needs. And it's not that they feel like the world owes them something, but it's just they feel like they owe themselves something. And with the Suicide Squad, these are characters who know that the world doesn't owe them anything, and they're just trying to find something. They owe themselves something else, something different. And yeah, you could say, oh, well, they're being forced to do it, or their heads will blow up. Yeah, but you're forced to go to work, or you're gonna get fired. And and that may be a pale comparison. I don't know, man. If you take this, I'm not taking this way too seriously. People would sometimes also into this type of stuff take shit way too fucking seriously. But yeah, I just think that they reflect people like Omni-Man, Invincible, the Suicide Squad, Batman even, they just reflect that emotional realism. And even with the new Batman movie, look at it. It's not clean. It's not clean. I know people are saying, oh, well, it looks just like the Christopher Nolan movie. It's not clean like the Christopher Nolan movies. Those movies are clean to look at. When you look at those movies, you can smell the fresh air. With the Matt Reeves Batman, you can't smell, there is no fresh air. You know, even though he looks like Nightwing more than Batman. That movie looks like if Dick was like, all right, yeah, I gotta step in. Or some shit like that. And Riddler's like, yeah, I know you're not Bruce Wayne, you're really Dick Grayson. That'd be crazy. They can take all my money if they did that, to be honest. I'm probably the only person that likes that idea. But anyway, yeah, like, even with the way that movie's shot, with the way that movie looks, with the way this Bruce Wayne looks now, even with Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne and his Batman, who's this more just dour, straightforward gunner type dude. Like, it's even with the way Superman's being portrayed now, even though those characters, I would say more Superman than Batman, don't fit that aesthetic, it's still very much like we are trying to give you heroes that you can touch. And I think at the end of the day, the Suicide Squad are just heroes you can touch. They're as weird as they are, that as strange as they look, there's something realistic about who they are and what they do and how they talk and everything, you know. And I think that it's because spiritually and collectively this generation is just more open to seeing something that reflects how they're feeling inside. All that chaos that's built up inside of you, it's just something that you can see. And the Suicide Squad is that. Invincible is that in a lot of ways. You know, you're with Invincible, I mean, he's going up against his very, straightforward, no-nonsense father who's telling him that one way is right. And Invincible is like, I don't know what way is right. I just know that I love you. And I don't know how I can face that, knowing that you are, the type of person that you are. So you got, and when you're a kid, or even when you're growing up and you're facing off against your parents, and you're coming to an age when you realize that your parents are probably not the people who you thought they were. Because I've been in that situation where my parents were. A lot of people, when you start growing up, especially in this day and age, when you start growing up and you start to hear the things that your parents are really saying, and you're coming into your own, and you're like, hold up, you sus, you real sus. It's very depressing. And I know people hate the D word, but it is. It's just depressing. It makes you depressed. It makes you upset that you still love this person, but it's now has to be about you and your decisions and how you mold yourself in your life, And with the Suicide Squad, for them, it's like, all right, I have to deal with the pain I've caused others, and I have to own up to that. And I have to do that by doing the most extreme. I have to sacrifice myself to do that. And a lot of people are like that. I mean, even in music, you have artists who wear their emotions on their sleeves, who tell you about their pain and their struggles and their traumas, and that's been the thing. But it's like, it's to the point where it's like you're seeing now superheroes, I guess, and I wouldn't even call them superheroes, or I don't even like to use the term superhero movie. I think it's all cinema. I think it's all film, and I've watched so many films, ranging from the fucking Maltese Falcon to the Bicycle Thief to the Friends of Eddie Coyle, or I forgot, is it Henry Coyle or Eddie Coyle? One of them. And Kurosawa movies, and then superhero movies and monster movies and all that. I just like soaking everything up. But it's still just like you're seeing a reflection of yourself and a collection of people, your gang. And nowadays, a lot of people be on gang shit. Like they do. That's why people like Naruto so much. Because it's gang shit. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna stop rambling. But yeah, like that's just what I've noticed about the Suicide Squad and and maybe that's my theories on why it's become so big and why stuff like this has now become so big and why Batman is still the ultimate sad boy, is still the ultimate emo, because everyone's like, oh, why does he look so emo? Batman's been emo. That is the template of emo. Like, he can never get out of his own head. He's just there. Batman is always depressed. He's always in his head, you know. But yeah, it's interesting to see what comes next as we get older, I guess. What type of entertainment speaks to the next generation, you know. But right now, for us, it's Suicide Squad. And I think even the name itself represents just, it says so much about us as a people today. Because while yes, they're dying to save the world, I mean, they're still saving the world, still doing what they gotta do. They're still trying to right the wrongs that they know that they've made, and hopefully save people in the process from either themselves or save themselves from themselves. But yeah, I'm gonna end this here. Be on the lookout for bigger announcements that me and Cytonius have coming up. So yeah, peace and blessings to everyone who sat back and listened to me run my mouth.